Drained oil and fuel filters. Used oil and fuel filters that have been draining throughout the day must be placed in a container and stored closed when not adding filters. Generally, your hazardous waste transporter can provide you with containers. The containers must be labeled with two things: the words drained used oil and fuel filters and the date that you placed the first filter in the container. You can purchase labels or make your own, as long as both things are included. Used oil filters must be disposed within 1 year from the accumulation start date, even if the container is not completely full. Used filters must be picked up by a California registered hazardous waste transporter and hauled under a bill of lading. The bill of lading needs to include the names, addresses, and phone numbers of your business, the transporter, and the facility your containers are being shipped to, as well as the number of containers being shipped and the date of shipment. You are required to keep copies of the shipping documents at your business for at least 3 years. Universal waste. Universal waste is a group of hazardous waste generated by a wide variety of people and businesses. This type of waste is more common and poses a lower risk to people and the environment. Therefore, it is allowed to be managed in a less strict manner, but should never be disposed of in the trash. Universal waste includes items like non-empty aerosol cans, non-rechargeable and rechargeable batteries such as alkaline, lithium-ion, and nickel metal hydride, sodium vapor and neon lamps, lamps that contain mercury vapor such as fluorescent and high-intensity discharge, mercury-containing waste like thermostats, thermometers, light switches, and gauges, consumer electronic devices such as TVs, computers, monitors, radios, cell phones, and most other items with circuit boards. You are not required to hire a registered hazardous waste transporter to haul your universal waste. However, if you do not manage it as universal waste, it must be managed as a hazardous waste. When managing waste as universal waste, you must ship the waste to an authorized universal waste disposal facility. If it's not an electronic device, store the waste in a box, bucket, drum, or other container. Repackage broken items in a container to prevent the release of hazardous substances. Label your containers and storage units as universal waste and include your business name, address, the date you started storing the waste. Universal waste must be disposed of within 1 year of the start date. You should transfer universal waste on a bill of lading and are required to keep copies of the shipping documents at your business for at least 3 years. Empty containers. Empty containers that held a pourable hazardous material must be drained until there is not a continuous stream of material when you turn the container upside down. If the container used to store non-pourable material, you must remove any residue by scraping or chipping. Metal containers 5 gallons or less can be sent for scrap metal, reconditioning, remanufacturing, or disposed of in the trash. However, metal containers larger than 5 gallons in size must be sent for scrap metal, reconditioning, or remanufacturing. Keep in mind that you can return all containers to the vendor for reuse or refilled with compatible material. For aerosol cans, if emptied of content and pressure, they can be disposed to the trash. Empty containers greater than 5 gallons that are stored on site must be marked with the word empty and the date when they were emptied. Labels can be purchased or you can create your own. You must manage all empty containers that held hazardous material within 1 year. To properly dispose of empty containers, use a bill of lading or hazardous waste manifest indicating the date, number of containers, name, address, and phone number of your business, the transporter, and the destination facility. Automotive lead-acid batteries. Automotive batteries used in cars, trucks, forklifts, and other work vehicles contain lead, acid, and other heavy metals, and therefore must be managed as hazardous waste if not recycled. You should not dismantle batteries or remove hazardous materials from them. If a battery has a cracked case or missing cap, place it in a plastic bag or container to prevent leakage before shipping. You should store batteries upright over a non-reactive surface to prevent the release of hazardous substances to the environment. Keep note, batteries must be recycled within 1 year. Used automotive batteries can be transported using a bill of lading or a hazardous waste manifest. Both documents must include the names, addresses, and phone numbers of your business, the transporter, and the facility that they are being shipped to. The documents must also include the number of batteries being shipped and the date of shipment. You are required to keep copies of the shipping documents at your business for at least 3 years. Collection and transfer containers. Containers used to collect and transfer hazardous waste to a labeled and closed hazardous waste storage container have different hazardous waste requirements. These types of containers may include oil caddies, drain pans, open-top buckets, wet-dry vacuums, or trays. You may leave these containers uncovered during operation. However, all collection and transfer containers must be emptied by the end of the day. All of these types of hazardous waste containers must be labeled with the words hazardous waste, your facility business name, the name of the substance being stored. Instead of the date, write the words empty daily. Container closure. Containers holding hazardous waste must be kept closed when you are not actively adding waste to them. When storing solid hazardous waste in boxes, totes, or roll-up bins, you must keep the containers closed or covered. Liquid hazardous waste must be stored in containers that are securely closed to prevent spills, mixing of incompatibles, and to minimize the release of vapors. There are different types of lids to make a container easy to open for adding waste but also secure, such as open-top drums with a ring closure lid, bolt ring to keep the lid secure, closed-top drums with bung openings, keep screw caps installed and tightened. Latch-top drums keep latch closed at all times. Funnels need to be removed when not in use and the container securely closed. Funnels with self-closing lids that can be latched meet requirements and are acceptable. Buckets need to be sealed with a proper fitting lid. Hazardous waste labeling. Containers with ignitable, corrosive, toxic, or reactive waste must be managed as hazardous waste. This would include containers that store waste oil, waste coolant, cleaning solvents, printing inks, waste fuel, waste paint, photo silver fix, dry cleaning solvents, acids, caustics, poisons, pesticides, and oxidizers. Portable containers or containers less than 110 gallons in size must be labeled with the following information: the words hazardous waste, your facility's name and address, contents, physical state, liquid or solid, and hazard category: flammable, reactive, corrosive, toxic. You can purchase or make your own labels. Stationary hazardous waste containers larger than 100 gallons, including tanks, only require the words hazardous waste and the content. The accumulation start date, or the date when you first add waste to the container, must be on all hazardous waste containers. There is no required size, color, or type for the labels or markings. For hazardous waste containers not transported off-site, you can permanently label them with paint or stencil. Hazardous waste storage. Hazardous waste containers must be maintained in good condition and handled and stored to prevent leaks or damage. You should store containers in a secured area to protect from vehicle traffic and weather. Secondary containment is recommended. The floor of the storage area must be impermeable. For example, concrete, asphalt, or an epoxy sealant. You must store ignitable waste 50 feet from the property line. Incompatible waste should be kept separate through the use of dikes, berms, walls, or by keeping the waste in different containment areas. Remember to leave enough aisle space to easily access the containers in case of an emergency. Satellite accumulation. In order to apply satellite accumulation at your facility, all of the following is required. A satellite container must be near the waste generation process and under control of the operator. A maximum of 55 gallons can be accumulated in one area. However, it is okay to have more than one satellite accumulation area. Only one container for each waste type can be used in each satellite accumulation area. The container must be labeled or marked with hazardous waste labeling requirements. Once the container is full, the date when it becomes full must be added to the label. The container must be transferred to a 90-day storage area within 3 days of being full. When the container is transferred to the storage area, the date of the transfer must be added to the label. Satellite accumulation containers must be disposed of within 1 year from the accumulation start date. Excluded recyclable material. Definition: waste being reused on-site or sent off-site for direct use as an ingredient in the production of material may qualify as a recyclable material rather than a hazardous waste. You must label recyclable or reusable material with the words "excluded recyclable material" and the date you began adding material to the container. Labels can be made or purchased. At least 75% of the material must be reused or recycled within the calendar year from when generated or dated. If used on site, you need to keep a log with the date and volume of when the material is used. Transportation documents or the bill of lading must include shipper, location, and contact information on where the material is being sent for recycling if shipping off-site. If the volume of reused or recycled material on-site or off-site is greater than 220 pounds or 27 gallons per month, then you must submit a recyclable material report form to Coupa by July 1st of even number years for the previous 2 calendar years. For example, a recyclable material report would be due July 1st, 2014 for reporting the time frame between January 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2012.